Hello, and welcome back to Craft Services. Today, we were supposed to have Jeremy Woolsey, the art director for *Five Bloods, to talk with us today, but due to scheduling issues, that never ended up happening. So instead, you're just going to have to listen to me and Trent talk with our friend Jackson Clark from college about the film.
Yep. Stay tuned.
We're going to move on now to our group discussion portion. What did you guys think of this film?
My initial thoughts, I really liked this movie, but I feel like for every couple things that it did right that I really liked, it did like a thing or two that held it back for me.
I agree that I really enjoyed the premise. I liked the performances. I thought it was a really beautiful film, but I agree that there were some subplots I didn't think that were fully explored, and there were definitely some elements that I thought were not executed to the best of their ability, and I had some other qualms that we'll get into later. But overall, positive. It was a good experience. I was thoroughly entertained, if nothing else.
I really, really like this movie. Only problems I had with it were kind of specifically like the way that it ends. I don't necessarily have a problem with it. It's just for a Spike Lee movie, it feels like, okay, and it's Spike Lee falling into his formula again. I just thought like around the middle, there were some pacing issues, but other than that, I really liked it. I had a good time.
What was your problem with the ending?
I don't necessarily have an issue with the way that it ends. If this was the only movie and I had no
prior experience with Spike Lee,
yeah, then I'd be like, oh wow, this is a really cool movie. I really liked it. But it's like every one of I've only seen BlacKkKlansman, Malcolm X, and this, and it's like every single movie of his that I've seen has ended with a montage, including some real life footage. I'm not asking for Spike Lee to be subtle, but it just feels like he's got a certain formula, and I would like to see him. I really like what he tackles. I just want him to tackle it a little bit differently now.
The ending of this movie, I was definitely expecting more of a BlacKkKlansman conclusion, where there's like topical footage of recent events, especially because like Donald Trump and the current state of affairs are like thoroughly discussed throughout. But instead, it was just the video of Martin Luther King saying that he was murdered not long thereafter. And I was expecting more of like a cherry on top, or a way to tie it back into modern times, because I feel like that's always a focus with Spike Lee.
My biggest problem with the ending was that early on in the film, they talk about how they wish that there was a Vietnam War movie that discussed the Black experience and had real heroes and wasn't just an attempt for Hollywood to like win the Vietnam War. And then this movie, they win the Vietnam War, just like they said they wanted a movie that didn't happen, and then they just went and did that. And I thought that was pretty lame.
I think they kind of do a good job of showing that America pretty vehemently fucked up Vietnam. I mean, don't they give like $1 million or something to the Vietnamese guy's family, and then also to the organization that's going to help remove landmines and shit?
That's not like losing the Vietnam
War. Yeah, but still,
War.
they got away with the gold, which I wasn't expecting.
They got away with their plans.
Despite 4 of the 5 Bloods dying, it still kind of was a happy ending.
Yeah, I agree, and I don't think it should have been, especially, but that wouldn't have bothered me as much if they hadn't like earlier on in the movie said that like we want a war movie that doesn't just like reclaim a victory for America.
It was a happier ending than I was expecting for sure, but I didn't feel like it was like the most pro-American fuck yeah we won type ending.
Like they got away with the money, and or at least like the one survivor did, and like donated it to good causes, which is like a victory. And I don't know.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
It felt counter to their prior points.
I think that like varying amounts of focus were given to the different members of the 5 Bloods, so much so to the point where I knew at least 2 of them were going to die just due to the lack of like screen time and subplot. But it did subvert my expectations by killing other main characters as well, which is always appreciated as that is rare these days.
Talking about the Bloods dying, I think that which one is it? Is it the guy played by Norm Lewis who steps on the mine? Yeah, Eddie steps on the landmine. That scene, to me, like specifically like his like mutilated body after the fact, was like comical. It reminded me of Tropic Thunder, and just like it just looked goofy. Like I feel like there's no way to do gore like that where like someone's just like de-limbed like that and then they're like still alive and talking. That's not going to be like funny looking. And like I like giggled, and I don't feel like I should have.
I agree that looked ridiculous, especially when like 90% of your body is blown to smithereens. You are not conscious for any final words.
With you, there's no way you can have no arms, and it's like gonna be like a serious scene.
That's a good rule of thumb.
I didn't necessarily have a problem with that, but I did find his last words being "bloods" as he whispers it out.
I thought that was a tad over dramatic.
Yeah, like it was just a little too much for me.
I loved the landmine portion, or the landmines throughout.
Yeah, I agree.
I agree.
Especially with the sun getting like yanked off of it. Like that was really well executed suspense.
When they found the gold, like when the son was going to use the bathroom, I liked it. But then when he found the gold and they were all like going down the hill,
that's when you were expecting them to find the landmine.
I was so stressed out. I was like, oh my god, one of them's gonna land on it and blow up. And I thought it was gonna be the son.
I think they strategically bring up landmines earlier, so when you see them walking around with a metal detector seemingly too good to be true, obviously that has to come to an end eventually. But also when the first guy got exploded, I felt that shot was going on for too long and that something bad was going to happen.
Yeah, when he just starts...
When he started walking backwards, I knew.
He was walking backwards with zero motivation to walk backwards. I was like, oh, this guy's about to get blown to shit.
And you were correct.
Yeah.
I thought the gun warfare in this movie, especially like the CGI bloodshed, was not particularly convincing. It kind of felt like a bad video game to me.
It kind of reminded me of John Wick.
Really?
Just the CGI blood aspect of it. I feel like unless you're making a movie with the kind of tone that John Wick does, or if you're like an incredibly good director with like a high budget like David Fincher or something, CG blood almost never convinces me.
I think Delroy Lindo's death in this was also funny and looked bad because of the blood effects, whatever they were. Like, wait, have you guys seen Platoon?
No,
that's the Charlie Sheen movie, right?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's fine. But like there's like the famous imagery of like the Vietnam soldier like getting down on his knees and getting like shot 1 million times.
Mm-hmm.
And like they kind of did that for Delroy Lindo. And like I don't know if that was an intentional homage or what, but I thought that was like funny just because like they shot him 100 times. Like that was insane. And it just kept going on. And I thought that was like a weird, like lighthearted moment when like this character had like nearly brought me to tears like twice earlier on in the film, and now like his death is like funny. I was like that didn't sit right.
Did you think it was intentionally meant to be lighthearted, or did you think it was just
I think it was
byproduct of it, like the way it was filmed?
Yeah, I think it was a misstep, like an unintentional misstep of like just like the way it was filmed, having him get shot so many times looked goofy.
I think it's somewhat realistic. Like they had him dig his own grave, which is already rather severe, so to shoot him 100 times isn't really overkill. But I agree, he didn't really get like a beat of like redemption or to sit and like be sad about it because you were so overwhelmed with his lack of body.
Kind of pivoting a little bit, what did you guys think of like it takes place in our present day with Donald Trump as president? I've seen a lot of reviews where they said that they got what Spike Lee was going for, but they kind of just wished that it was a little more subtle. Did you guys have a problem with that?
Subtle in what?
In its political agenda?
Like not necessarily specifically be about Donald Trump and that, but to rather be like all these fucking Gen Z kids. I don't know, not that literally, but like some people I saw had a problem with the fact that it was so specifically in 2020.
I think since it took place in 2020, it only made it feel like more of its time. It made it feel like more important with them going back. I certainly didn't mind it, and I didn't feel hit over the head with it. I thought it was kept in moderation, and really the one character, Paul, being a Trump supporter, I feel like spoke a lot about his character and about like veterans with trauma and how they can agree with Trump's sensibility. So it all made sense within the story.
I agree.
How did you feel about the flashback sequences without de-aging or casting younger actors?
I did not like that at all. I wasn't even sure for most of the movie. Like, I was like, do they think I'm not going to notice this? Is this on purpose? And it really threw me off. I did not enjoy that at all. And I also watched an interview with Delroy Lindo where he says it was written in the script that the Bloods would be like their old ages in the flashbacks.
Well, I read an interview with Spike Lee, and what basically happened was, as I recollect it, they wanted to de-age them.
What, the Irishmen caught heat and they didn't want to fall into that trap?
They weren't willing to give Spike Lee the money to do it, I guess, because that movie had like a budget of $160 million, most of which went to the de-aging stuff, which I feel is weird that they wouldn't be willing to give Spike fucking Lee, like, who won Best Original or Adapted Screenplay at the Oscars 2 years ago. And also, The Irishman, there are significant portions of the movie, whereas like here, I don't know, was it maybe like 15, 20 minutes where they would be de-aged?
Like, I don't know. They should have just used younger actors. It did nothing for me to see them in their old age. Like, it doesn't seem worth it to de-age them for such a short amount of time.
No, I feel like that individual element is kind of laughable. And it definitely like undercuts all the things I loved about the remainder of the movie. For example, like Otis's Vietnamese girlfriend, lover, for whom he has a child with. This takes place in 2020, and they were in Vietnam in like the 60s. So the daughter should be at least 50 years old. And she is like in her, like mid-20s. The girlfriend is, I don't know, like 50. So I just think the timeline was not really taken into account.
I'd assume that this was a relationship that extended beyond the war.
All of them have gray hair in the flashbacks. So that's assuming they're like, I don't know, like 50 years old already. And then they should be about 100, for which they are not.
I don't think it's meant to be that they are old in the flashbacks. I think that's meant to be...
I think that's meant to be overlooked.
I think they should have like shaved them or dyed their hair or done something. I think for the average viewer, it might be confusing. Like, although they changed the aspect ratio, and for us, it seems rather obvious. But if you have a flashback and the people are the same age as they were in the present time, that's not as much of an indication as the average movie would give.
This harkens back to like what I said at the start, how like everything they did right, like they also did a step backwards. Like Trent just mentioned, they like changed the aspect ratio, and there's like a new color grade and everything for like the like faux like Vietnam War footage scenes. Also, they're not de-aged. So, like it looks cool because of the color grade and the new aspect ratio. It looks bad because like the people are still old. It looks cool because like all their costumes and guns are like historically accurate and everything. But then they're just like running around in the open like it's like a bad video game. And it doesn't look at all like the real Vietnam War footage that they show side by side with it looks like. And I thought that was really weird and like just like kind of lazy looking.
Yeah, I agree. I liked the fact that they shot on 16 millimeter and they changed the aspect ratio to 4:3. I thought that was a novelty that as film connoisseurs we appreciated. But I agree that the flashbacks were by no means the strong suit. I read some complaints online about the accuracy in regards to the real Vietnam War and how a military advisor would have went a long way.
But I mean, even to the eyes of me, who's like a layman, like when the helicopter starts getting shot at and then they just hovered there instead of like leaving, that didn't make any sense.
Never once have I really seen a helicopter crash in such a way and not explode.
And also, have everyone survive, yeah.
Also, the crashed airplane was entirely empty except for the one case of like conveniently like cinematic centered gold that if it had been scavenged, it seems like it would have, because they were completely surrounded by these forces. That seemed kind of coincidental.
Jumping back to the military advisor, like like all the Bloods in the flashbacks have M16s, which are not fully automatic, but they were all used like they were in the flashbacks.
The internet complained about how they never changed ammo, like they never changed their round,
yeah,
and how the Bloods were surrounded like 100-5, and after shooting a few of them, they entirely retreated.
Yeah, it was very strange.
I thought that the final showdown at like the old ancient ruins was exceptional, though.
I liked it.
It was definitely better.
It felt like there was more choreography put into that. I don't know. And there was a better sense of geography.
I thought this movie's conclusion was going to be like, the lesson learned was appreciate like humans over like material objects and wealth. And after losing 80% of the Bloods, I thought the end was going to be them sacrificing the gold to save their lives, which I feel like was the obvious ending, and I was surprised it didn't go that direction.
Yeah, I really like how Delroy Lindo lost his gold and then like gave it up for Norman, like in his like delusional walking. I thought that was like a really like that.
So did I. I really loved that.
Expectations, yeah.
And him talking into the camera.
Another Spike Lee staple.
That was powerful.
Can we all agree Delroy Lindo and his character is the best stuff in the movie? Yes.
Is that Paul?
Yeah, that's Paul.
Do we agree with that? Because that, for me, that's what it is, and that's what seems to be getting the most like rave reviews and stuff.
In like the very beginning, I was like really thrown off by his performance. I feel like it's a portrayal of PTSD that like I've never seen like an actor take that way. And at first, I was like, this is like really foreign to me, and like I'm not sure I like it. But like as it went on, I got really into his performance, and I think particularly like the scene on the boat in like that like open water market place, and like someone's trying to sell him a chicken, and he like has like a panic attack on the boat. I thought that was amazing. Like,
yes, I agree.
One of the best scenes of acting like that I've seen in a long time. Like that was really, really good.
What did you guys think about the assorted footage intro? I thought it was really effective at setting the scene, not only in terms of, I don't know, refreshing the average viewer's memory of the events of the Vietnam War, but also setting the stage for like the racial injustices that they'll be discussing.
I thought it was really good, but again, like because it was really good, they also had to take a step back. And the step back was that some of the war footage they show is like horrific and like gruesome. And then like when we got again like the faux old footage, like it just didn't live up to the real stuff.
When you do a side-by-side comparison like that, it's allowing the viewer to see like the flaws in the artistic interpretation when you show them the real thing. Otherwise, they wouldn't have any frame of reference.
It didn't bother me too much, but I can see it being a misstep for some people.
But yeah, the imagery within the first 2 minutes of the film, you're seeing self-immolation, and you see you watch like a live execution, and I was like, damn, like that's what a way to set the tone. I don't think the rest of the film was as dark.
Yeah, that was something I was kind of taken aback by. I kind of expected it. I mean, there's lots of violence, but I don't know. I expected something kind of more brutal in some way, not necessarily physically, but like something darker. I feel like it kept a mildly light tone.
I agree with that, but I also think I'm not even sure when this happens in the movie. There was one scene that got like more like brutal and dark for me than the opening, when someone mentioned all the kids, like all the Vietnamese kids that were killed, and they like show a couple images of like Vietnamese like children who'd been bombed or something, and they were like horrified.
The Lemay massacre.
Yeah, I thought that was like incredibly upsetting, like on purpose, and that was very effective.
Go off of that point. I like that they were able to make our heroes not necessarily the most righteous.
Yeah, they're a problematic group.
And the villains, in quotes, which would be the Vietnamese people, are not made out to be ridiculous, like killing machines. And it's like they've seen like like you said, like by showing that the horrific murders of like these children, you can totally understand. And frankly, they're right that gold is meant for the Vietnamese people. And so I kind of like that it has that complexity. I wish that it had done something more. It's a complex issue that they present that they then solve with a simple answer that I kind of wish there was something more with it.
The Vietnamese people originally are made out to be like the victims, like as they should be. But I think it's weird that they fall back into the role of the villains. Like they want the same exact thing as our protagonists, and they probably have more of a reason, like that's rightfully their property. But I think it's weird how you were put in a position to root for the Five Bloods when objectively they may be in the wrong.
Which makes me question, because I think that, I mean, Spike Lee's not an idiot. Spike Lee's a really smart filmmaker. So that makes me wonder, was he trying to make us uncomfortable with that? Like, was he cognizant of the fact that he was placing it? Or was he just sort of didn't realize what he was doing with that? I don't know.
Well, I don't think that it was like explicitly like the Vietnamese people have more of a right to the gold than the Five Bloods. I think they're making a case for reparations, which is a pretty strong case for stealing money from America.
Well, I wasn't. I don't think that the Vietnamese necessarily had more of a right, but they do have a valid reason in my eyes for why they would want it. And the only thing I find weird is that in the end, they are codified as the bad guys.
You mean like the Vietnamese guys that show up with LaRoche in like the final battle?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like, to me, I see how that could easily be read that way, and like that was probably not a good way to end the movie in that regard. But I feel like, to me, I read that as like the capitalist French guy is like fucking over Vietnam again by sending these Vietnamese people to die in this battle.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know if like Spike Lee was trying to make a comment on the fact that like these rich white European people are the people that are like trying to pull all the strings here, right? So like he's fucking over Vietnam again. So then it makes me wonder, like, does Spike Lee is that what Spike Lee's trying to say? Because it doesn't really, to me, come off like that's... It comes off to me like he was part of it, but it's also not like the Vietnamese aren't aware of what they're doing.
I think it's intentionally ambiguous, and in the same way as Do the Right Thing is, where there's no right answer, and it's meant to be discussed and argued, and it's supposed to start a conversation.
I think that like this is intentional, that like these white Europeans are pitting together two groups, like the Vietnamese and African Americans, who have been like horribly and graphically and violently wronged by the United States, like pitting them against each other in like a battle for what would essentially be reparations in the gold. And that like both the Vietnamese people and the Five Bloods have like a personal and like a greater sense of like how America has wronged them. They shouldn't have to fight each other for the reparations. They should fight the like white Europeans, but like because of the way like capitalist societies are built, like they're fighting each other.
The thing is, I really like that. It's just that at the end of the day, even beyond killing the French guy, I don't know, it just felt like there was a weird imbalance to me, because it doesn't feel like
the Vietnamese people were given a fair shake.
Yeah, I don't know. It just felt like to me like we were also supposed to root against the Vietnamese people.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Because that's my only issue with it, because I think that Spike Lee was trying to do that because he's a smart guy. He understands what he's doing. But I just think it doesn't come off that way. I don't know. It could have come off more morally ambiguous than we got what we wanted.
It could have been a more nuanced portrayal of Vietnamese fighters.
This movie runs 2.5 hours long, and I think there were some subplots that were a little meandering. First of all, I think establishing the French guy as the mastermind was a little strange, because you meet him 20 minutes in and they're orchestrating this deal and they're like, hey, it kind of seems like you might screw us over, and he's like, I won't. And then he shows up with 20 minutes left and he's like, all right, you guys are right, I'm about to screw you over. That felt a little like sprung on. Also, I'd say like romantic subplot between Paul's son and the
Hetty,
the landmine woman. I understand that she had to be introduced somehow, and that was an effective way to do that, but it was never really fully expanded upon.
I also felt like their quote unquote relationship was like a little weirdly developed, because it was like she was kind of interested in him, and then she's like, yeah, I wouldn't have sex with you if you were the last man on earth or something like that.
Yeah,
And
for
then
all
she's
the gold in the world.
then she's okay with him again, and it just felt like things were just kind of happening on that front rather than like us feeling the change in their relationship, if that's going to be a plot in your movie.
That subplot didn't like do anything for me, but it didn't detract from the overall movie for me.
What about the relationship between Otis and his Vietnamese lover and the daughter?
I thought the like after we first see the daughter, and she's obviously
His
she's
child.
obviously his child.
I thought that was such a funny beat.
And there's like, wait, I thought that beat went on so long, and there's like
intentionally
what feels like, I know, but then there's like what feels like minutes of like silence at the table, and I'm like, come on, just say it. Like like everyone in the audience like
is thinking it.
Like we know what's going on, and then but it just like took longer for the characters, and like I was like just like bored in that like minute of space where like I was like, come on, just say it, acknowledge this.
I thought it was funny. I didn't really have a problem with it.
I thought the character who was mourned the least was the blood who jumped on the grenade in the end.
Wait, is he the character that said he would never jump on a grenade?
I really liked his character arc there, and they never really made a deal out of it.
I'm glad they didn't like point out the fact that he said that earlier, because I like remembered that, and I was like, oh, like that's how it turned out. Okay.
Also with I'm not sure if it's can even be considered a subplot, but with the guy with like the pain medication, I'm not sure if that was big pharma opioid epidemic commentary.
Yeah, I don't know what they were doing with the Vicodin stuff, because I feel like this movie is a lot about is very much about how war can affects, like most war movies, it's about how war affects soldiers.
Yeah.
And the lingering effects that it has, and on the whole, I feel like it does a good job of that. So I thought they were going to do something where like these vets have to like end up getting addicted to these painkillers because of, you know, the aftermath of things. But then they never really do anything. Like he goes, I'm not a junkie, and then he's not a junkie. Like, I don't know.
We're kind of shifting the conversation here to Storm and Norman. I'm curious what your opinions of his characterization was, because in my opinion, he was a little bit flat. Like I understand that he was like kind of supposed to be like both the Martin like and the Malcolm for the Bloods. And like one of the Bloods has a line that's like something like he taught us he taught them about the movement. He taught them about Black Power and that kind of thing, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And then we never really see him, like, I don't know. I feel like all the teachable moments we saw with him were like you control your own rage, and we're like personal, like here's what you should do with the movement on your own, and weren't really like, I don't know. Like I kept coming back to thinking about Furious Styles. I don't know if you guys have seen Boys in the Hood, but like that character is like a black teacher to the max, like played by Lawrence Fishburne, and he's awesome. And he like talks about like everything that America has done to them, and I just feel like that piece of Storm and Norman was missing, and he would have been more effective if he had talked about like the wrongs as much as he talked about the solution, like personally, and the reparations.
I agree that you're more told that what he says is profound rather than being shown it, because like all of the characters like clearly admire him, but in the few like flashbacks you see with him, like he's clearly like their squad leader and they all respect him. Me as the viewer, because I was only told about it, I didn't get the opportunity to be like, well, I understand what all of them saw in this character and why they were so crushed by his loss.
I wish I had loved him as much as they did. Yeah.
That's a good point.
I feel like you needed a full-on scene with him, which you never really get.
I do think the scene snippets where like he tells Delroy Lindo that it's okay and it was just a mistake was really good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
it's also
that's
like
still
at the
also
end,
in the
like,
present.
pretty
That's a scene that would have so much greater payoff if we had a full scene with the Bloods interacting like on a mission or something like that. Because it felt like I was kind of surprised when I watched this movie because I thought the past
I
scenes
thought
there were gonna be way
I thought
more
Chadwick
of them.
Boseman was going to
I
be the
thought
main character.
I did too.
I thought he was gonna be the main character in the like flashback scenes, and
Yeah,
there was just not
but I
many
mean, I
of
guess
them.
if the flashback scenes were
And
going to be like how they were, I'm fine with there being few.
I think Paul's character, like accidentally killing Storm and Norman, made a lot of sense, and it like put into context why he was like why he was more upset,
I saw that
affected
coming.
by
I
it
don't
than
know about
anyone
you
else.
guys.
when we I didn't see that coming at the very beginning, but when we got to the scene, I was
Once
like,
he said
oh,
like
he's gonna
I
come
see
from
him
the other
every
end.
night, I was like, oh, this guy killed him. I didn't know it was going to be an accident. I even thought it would be more dramatic if he killed them on purpose. But
Do you think the other Bloods knew,
No,
or do you think that it was like part of it?
he
Part
lied
of
to
what
them.
was eating him
We know
alive
that
was
he
him
lied to
keeping
them.
the secret.
Yeah, he said like he was caught in the crossfire or something. Like
He didn't tell anybody. Wait, and also in the modern times, like when they ask him like why, like it's so acutely upsetting to him, he says like I saw him die. Like that's why it fucked him up. But it was
Yeah.
Yeah.
he shot him.
I liked how all the different characters had different ideas on what they would spend their fortune on. How some were holding on to the idea of giving it back to like the Black community and considering it reparations, and others were gonna have personal use. And how the character of Norm, who was earlier thought to be the wealthiest of them, and how he was a big man in the
character of Eddie,
excuse me. How he was a big name in the car dealership community, but how he'd lost it all. And I really think that they gave him that like last minute personality because they were going to kill him a few minutes later.
Yeah, but I didn't have a problem with it. One of the things I kind of like about this movie is, I mean, obviously it's about very distinctly 5 African American people, but like I like in the movies a lot of the times what I find annoying is when you have a character that's in some way a minority, whether it's a Black person or a woman or some other person of color. Like what ends up happening is that it's like that one person that's Black acts a certain way, and so it sort of happens that like, oh well, all Black people are like that. And what I like about this movie is that it gives a variety of like personalities and like values and things like that, and that's something that I really like about it because it's like
No, I agree with that.
I don't know.
Like there's no one way to be Black, and there's also no one way for them to be affected by what happened.
Exactly, which is something I really appreciate when movies do that.
Well, another dynamic that worked for me was between Paul and his son, because you could like see all of the like the tension and the conflict there, but also like when the son knew that his dad was like acting rather crazy, and first he adhered to it and like tied up the landmine people, and then he decided to like betray him, and it was like so emotional when he like disowned him, but he like had to make that decision for like the common good.
Do you think
was,
just another like silly moment just talking about Paul's son was I thought when like Paul's son got shot in the leg and they're like giving him a tourniquet or whatever, and he yells Morehouse. I thought that was but I don't think that was funny in a good way though. Like that was like I was like, why did he say that? Like that was like that was like a fully like comedic joke. And I was like, that was weird.
I didn't have a problem. I thought it was funny.
While we're on the topic of Morehouse, I thought while the only historic cutaway that didn't really build the foundation for anything was when when the Morehouse guy was on the landmine, and then he talked about like the runner.
Like, that didn't bother me. Like none of the cutaways to history bothered me, but I think the purpose of that was like, I don't know, like he was inspired. Like maybe I'm reaching or reading into this, but like he was inspired by a Black hero, and like that was how he was able to save his life.
I always kind of took it as like the effect that Norman had on everybody was that they had decided to become more educated on like Black history and everything like that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And so it would make sense then for him to like that to be a thing that he would tell his son at a younger age or something.
What about do you know how there's like the radio cutaways to
Hanoi Hannah.
Yeah. What'd you think of that?
I really enjoyed that. Wait, and that was one that I had never heard of, Hanoi Hannah, and I thought that was incredibly interesting.
Is she a real historic figure?
Yeah, she is, and I thought that was like really cool. I didn't know that was a thing, and it reminds me of like you probably know this, but like in like World War II, like the Nazis like dropped propaganda to the black soldiers about like how are you fighting, like why are you fighting if like you
The
don't
white
have
man's war.
Yeah. I thought that was really dope.
And Hanoi Hannah practically functioned by like allowing by setting up music to be used in like a diegetic way.
Okay, speaking of the diegesis, when I don't remember when this happened, but when like where it's like a close up on Paul's face, and then it like changes aspect ratios, and then goes back in time. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
We like see the screen shrink. Like, I thought that was an insanely cool shot.
I liked it as well.
I loved when they would cut to black and then you could like see the aspect ratio expanding like vertically or horizontally, and just because it was like opening a window into like a new world, and it was just very visually striking.
We've spoken our thoughts on the film. Should we assign a rating?
I think it's time.
Oh, do we do like a letter box?
It's out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah. Jackson, as the touring member, say
please go first.
Have at it.
Well, taking into account the highs and lows this movie has for me, I think I'd go for a 7. 5 being an average movie. I think I'd go for a 7.
I was gonna say between a 7 and an 8, so I'll give it a 7.5.
I would say an 8. It a lot of the things that like with the flashback stuff didn't bother me so much, so I feel like that if that had bothered me, it would probably have been a 7. But I thoroughly enjoyed my time.
I think it was like markedly less impactful to me than Do the Right Thing was.
Yeah, the other two Spike Lee movies I've seen being Do the Right Thing and Black Klansman, although I absolutely adore both of those movies, because of how much I like those movies, it makes this my least favorite of the 3, but as we've discussed, that by no means makes it a bad movie.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Wrap it up, Parth.
Well, to wrap this all up neatly with a bow, I guess we should thank our guests, Wynn Thomas, production designer. I want to thank Jackson Clark for joining us for our discussion.
Thank you for having me.
It was a pleasure. It was our pleasure. So thank you, folks. If you listen to our special 2-parter, next week we're going to be talking about Last Black Man in San Francisco. And with us, we're going to have an assistant director on the film, Hilton J. Day. So look forward to having you guys hear that.
That's all for now.
See
Bye.
you, folks.